Typical of those two. Efficient, explosive scores. I thought they did a good job playing off each other and keeping the thing moving and us playing as a team. And I thought there was a pretty good flow out there for the most part.
And then just before that run in the second quarter, I mean, Phoenix was pretty in control of the game. Just what do you think they were giving you guys the most trouble, whether it was Ayton, some of the switches, et cetera?
Yeah, I mean, more than anything, Ayton had 7 or 8 offensive rebounds in the first half, and that hurt us. But you could probably pick a few reasons. We weren't maybe as sharp early in the game as we were later, but we kind of grew into it and figured out, I think some of the defensive patterns that we needed to get better at, and so we got better as the game progressed. But there's probably a few factors as to why we fell behind early.
Brian Lewis with the New York Post.
Hey, Steve. This is twofold. I mean, you mentioned Kyrie and KD being, it's a typical performance, but I mean, KD had been out hurt for a week. And Kyrie, I think it's fasting and coming off of 4 and 19. Are you surprised that they can be as efficient as they were tonight, all things considered, or has that ceased to surprise you at this point?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's I think it's more normal that they're efficient like that than otherwise. I think, Kevin's shown that his scoring doesn't seem to get affected by a long layoff, whether it was coming off the Achilles or coming off the hamstring. He seems to come right back, and his rhythm and timing are excellent. So, it's very impressive for sure. I don't want to diminish how special they are, but, it's more the norm than I think the extraordinary for those two.
And the second part was, you had said before the game you didn't anticipate Kevin playing 30. Granted, he only played 28. But, I mean, is part of that just an admission that some minutes are a heavier load than others, and the way he was playing, this wasn't a heavy load, or did something change in there?
I think from the time I talked to you, I finally talked to performance, and we came up with 28 minutes, and that's kind of what we stuck to.
Greg Logan with Newsday.
And on that playing time situation, I mean, he played 20 out of 24 in the second half. So do you anticipate kind of a pattern like that going forward for a little while until he gets everything completely under him?
We'll see. I mean, I think we monitor it, and we'll see if we start him next game or not. But, that's the type of thing that we want to just continue to have the flexibility to decide game to game what's the best output for him and what's the best order of the output. And, tonight we just made sure, although he'd load up in the second half with minutes, he would have plenty of breaks. And, he'd have come out of the game with a break. He'd have the quarter break. He'd have timeouts. So he came out twice and had a quarter break in between. So we just tried to manage it that way.
Christian Winfield with the New York Daily News.
Hey, Coach, this is a really good Suns team, right? They're second in the West, and then on top of that, they come out East, and I believe they just beat Boston, just beat Philly, and just beat another Eastern Conference team. So for you guys to come out here without James, obviously, with all the roster fluctuations that have been, and to come out and beat these guys, what does that say to you about where your team is right now?
Really, it just I look at it as where we are today, and today we performed. We could have been better defensively, but a lot of good stretches. We created separation with our defense, and offensively we were able to score. And so, tonight it was good. Lots to build on, lots of positives. But for me, it's never this is where we are. It's where we going. And so this is an indicator of what we can do well and where we can improve and continue to chip away and get better. So that I don't ever really look at it as far as who we are, where we are. I look at it as where we're trying to get to and how can we build off of this, whether we win or lose, play well or bad, what was the lesson and what can we learn.
Brian Mahoney with AP.
Hey, Steve, no other NBA coach has ever thought to bring Kevin Durant off the bench. Is it hard to stick with the plan? I mean, like when you fall behind 10-9, you're like, all right, let's get Kevin Durant in there. Is it easy to kind of just stick to this because you are thinking big picture, obviously?
Yeah, two things. I think you think big picture, and I'd rather fall behind and have Kevin in the back pocket than go up and say, okay, Kev, you're done in the third quarter. So I think that's kind of the give and take of it, and he's been on board with it. And so, props to Kevin for being willing to try something like this that I think gives us a chance to be as flexible as we can be under the circumstances.